cites Dine Inc. in New Hampshire, which was hit. It's called a denial of service attack when devices are used as bots to overwhelm a site with queries. This, just the most recent attack. According to U.S. intelligence, email hacks were made by the Russian government. The White House says it's too early to know who's responsible for this attack, which it called malicious activity.
ABC's David Curley in Washington. New York Giants place kicker Josh Brown is on paid leave after handwritten journals showed he admitted to abusing his then wife. The NFL says it's looking into the matter, but admits it hasn't been easy.
They said they called repeatedly. They said they sent emails. They said they asked for these documents. There was a public records request where they couldn't identify exactly who they were. But they're saying that this sheriff's talk right now is a bit disingenuous, that at every turn they tried to get the information, but the police said no go. So when that happens, it becomes hard for them to ascertain what happened, according to them.
ABC's Marion Smith. Airbnb says it's going to sue New York State over a newly enacted law that imposes one of the nation's toughest restrictions on the short-term rental business. This is ABC News.
Allison is perfect. I mean, she'd never tell you that. She's humble and perfect. She likes everyone. She even likes her untidy roommate's weird guinea pig. Allison, wait, are you texting and driving? Allison, no. That's the exact opposite of what I was just saying about you. Why, Allison? Why? Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Daria Albinger, ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont and the Pass area, we'll have a sunny, breezy Saturday with a high of 85 with winds to 20 miles an hour. Unity partly cloudy overnight with a low of 63 with winds to 20 miles an hour. Sunday, we'll have a partly sunny day with a chance of a shower, our high 79. Monday, there's a chance of morning showers and storms. Unity partly sunny, our high 75. For Redlands, we'll kick off the weekend with sunny skies at a high of 89. For Palm Springs, it'll be sunny and warm with a high of 93. I'm Rod Tanner for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
The Holiday Inn Express in Suites and Banning is distinctively suited for your travel time out of the car. Off the road, you'll find a courteous, welcoming staff in spacious rooms with desks, flat-screen HD TVs, and comfortable furnishings. Enjoy the complimentary breakfast buffet, high-speed internet, and fitness center and pool. The Holiday Inn Express in Suites and Banning, conveniently located off the I-10 near golf, gaming, and entertainment. For reservations and information, call 951-572-5500. That's 951-572-5500, or go online at hiebanning.com.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the SoundCloud tab, and hear any show anytime you want.
Douglas V. Gibbs here. The sad truth is we only see pieces of the bigger picture. People believe it takes too much work to identify reality. Unless we recognize an obvious reason to reject a lie, we will believe it. We are naturally wired to accept what we are told by ruling elite con men that are confident and charismatic. On Constitution Radio, we expose the lies. Listen live to hear more on Saturdays at 1 p.m. right here on KMET AM 1490.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
And welcome. It is time for Constitutional Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs. Just getting in at the last moment. It's an inside joke. Alex, did that make you nervous?
It definitely scared the bejesus out of me.
Well, I tell you what, every once in a while things happen. Basically, Doug had a very busy day yesterday. He got up later than he should today. Then I had my phone ringing off the hook and all kinds of things going on. Got on the road, got behind the slowest possible traffic. One of the things that frustrates me when I'm on the road is when you've got like a pair of cars on a 2-lane road going 5 miles under the speed limit next to each other. So you can't go around them. You're just stuck. In my case, it was a car and these 3 motorcycles. So I'm coming up the roadway, and then when I make a right, the motorcycles went straight. So I'm like, okay, well, at least I won't have them in front of me anymore, right? Get on the new road, same thing happens, but it's 2 vehicles. Catch every red light, make the left, get back on another road to, kind of a back way. And what happens? I stop at the stop sign, and the motorcycles I was stuck behind are going by, and I'm stuck behind them again. They just took a different route to go to the same place I went. So I'm stuck with, and when I say 3 motorcycles, I'm talking, well, let's just say, Alex, they made you look young.
Well, that's the only people that can afford one of these Harleys nowadays, somebody that's racked up some wealth.
Yeah.
They want $20-some thousand for a motorcycle.
Yeah, you might be right. Well, you got those great, what was like a Spider or something like that, where it's the 4-wheel motorcycle. It's open, you got to wear the helmet, but
if it's got 4 wheels, it ain't a motorcycle. I'm sorry, those guys on the 3-wheelers, I don't need training wheels on a motorcycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you've been riding. I remember there was a trip you took all the way out to Arkansas just, a couple years ago, right, in your motorcycle?
No, but I did ride from Cleveland, Ohio to Albany, New York on a 50cc moped through the Allegheny Mountains.
So you were the guy people were stuck behind, like I just was. I was frustrated.
Well, in Albany, I had been, in order to keep going, if you've got only 50 cc's, like I'd go through a town in a valley in the Alleghenies, and there'd be a policeman at 4 a.m. sitting there reading his newspaper, and he'd see me go by at 70 miles an hour. Well, I'd just come off the mountain, and if I slowed down, I'd never make it up the other side. And they let me go. So this in Albany.
So he knew.
He knew there was no point in chasing me. Whatever happened, it was going to happen to me. So in Albany, I got 2 Hell's Angel types at a stoplight, and I roared right between them in order to keep my RPM up. And they came up looking like they were ready to tear my head off. And the one kicks his bike back, and he looks at my plate, and he says, "Where are you from?" I said, "Cleveland." Now, that's a 500-mile ride. He turns to his buddy and says, "Just let him go. He's got enough trouble already."
Yeah, there you go. Well, speaking of trouble, did you watch the last debate?
Oh, yes, of course.
Did you see the dinner the next day with the Cardinal and all that?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, the zingers were, well, the Cardinal said that who sat between Mr. Trump and the evil one, said that he had the iciest seat in the House. And it was an icy dinner. One of my favorite things was when Mr. Trump says that Hillary Clinton and he had, kind of, almost got in the way of each other, and she says, "Pardon me," and he says, "Well, we'll see what happens." Yeah, it was pretty good. I like that.
Well, he's still, my problem is that I've been debating lefties ever since college, and I've got it down to a fine art.
He can't debate lefties. Is that what you're saying?
This guy just can't stay on subject. He's
too busy trying to prove that he doesn't grab women's
Well, that's not the subject. The subject is what the hell's going to happen to America.
Right.
And I resent the fact that this guy is spending all his time worrying about personal injuries. This ain't personal.
Well, did you hear or read about at all the Gettysburg speech this morning?
I only heard bits and pieces of it. My wife went to Taiwan today, and I had to help her get ready.
Yeah, your mic is just not cooperating. What you have to do is take that wire and kind of loosen it up a little bit. But, all right, here's what we got. Convention of States. I had scheduled someone from the conventionofstates.org to be on the program today. And it looks like they haven't called in, unless, Sean, I'm wrong here. But looks like they haven't called in. And, okay. Well, I left them a message to remind them and all this other stuff. But, it happens occasionally. But we're going to talk about it anyway because this is actually something I was talking about long before conventionofstates.org emerged and long before Mark Levin changed his mind on the issue. And on the website, politicalpistachio.com, I put some questions up, and we're going to answer those. And so first of all, the first concern when we talk about convention of states is people say, whoa, we don't want a con. We're afraid of that. It could be runaway. Well, first of all, let's understand convention of states is not a con-con. There's three kinds of conventions. Con-con means constitutional convention. Constitutional convention, there was only one. There should only be one. It was in 1787. A Mr. Madison, James Madison, took fantastic notes during that convention, along with a few others. A Mr. George Washington presided as president of the convention. That was the only con-con we have had, and it's the only con-con we should have. Convention of States is not a con-con. The Convention of States is another name for Article 5 Convention. Article 5 Convention is laid out in Article 5 of the United States Constitution. Article 5 of the United States Constitution explains that there's two ways. There are two ways that you can amend the Constitution, both requiring a ratification by 3/4 of the states. All right, so you've got the opportunity to propose amendments by Congress or by the states. And if the states do it, they do it by convention. They get together, they have their little party convention, and if 2/3 of them call the convention, and then in the convention 2/3 of them approve a proposal, that proposal then will go out to the states for ratification, which still takes 3/4 ratification. Now, when we talk about it going out to the states have a choice on how to ratify it. They can do it either by convention themselves, where the important members of different districts, get together in convention, or through the state legislatures. It's up to the state. They do it the way they want to do it. The great thing about a convention of states, Article 5 convention, it's a way to amend the Constitution without the federal government's influence. They're not a part of it. They're out of the picture. This is why the federal government and federal employees and representatives and politicians are against it. They don't want we the people to dictate to them what they can or can't do. Now, here's why amending the Constitution is so important. In the Constitution, our first 7 articles especially, you've got authorities given to the federal government. Federal government is only allowed to do what it's expressly granted by the Constitution. Their authorities are sort of like any contract you would make. It's like if you had a construction company who's going to add a room to your house. That construction company is not going to add a second room or go mow your lawn. The contract says they're supposed to build a room this size. This is what they're allowed to do. This is the materials they use, and that's it. If they need to do more, they need to ask you as the homeowner for permission to have that additional authority. And then the contract can be amended. The states are the authors of the U.S. Constitution. If the federal government feels it needs an additional authority, they need to ask the states for permission to have an additional authority. Amend the Constitution. They can propose the amendment through Congress, ask for permission, and it takes 3/4 of states to say, okay, we're good with it. One vote less than 3/4 doesn't happen. However, sometimes it's necessary, because the federal government's getting out of whack, that the states can amend the Constitution. Add authority, remove authority, clarify something. That's where Convention of States comes in. There was a mock convention, I think it was in West Virginia not too long ago, and talking to Lou Oberman, who is the district regional head guy there in the San Diego County for Convention of States. He told me it went swimmingly. A matter of fact, also George Rombach, who's a local officer for Convention of States here in Southern California, said that there were representatives from all 50 states. They took it very seriously. There was no runaway problems. It went great. Among the top proposed proposals for amendments was repealing the 17th Amendment, balanced budget amendment, things like that. Now, here's the question, and I'm going to throw this over to Alex Ferguson here. We have an election coming up in just a couple weeks. We have Satan incarnate, Hillary Clinton, versus, wasn't real thrilled about him, but I'll take him, Donald Trump. How important does Convention of States become if the election is of Hillary Clinton?
I'm sorry, but I have the feeling that we're rearranging the furniture on the deck of the Titanic. Once Hillary has got the reins of power in her hand, I don't think there's going to be any recognition of the Constitution at all.
So you think Convention of States would not even have any force? They would say, okay, we have amended the Constitution, and she would say, what Constitution?
Exactly. She's going to have her Supreme Court justices nullify the Bill of Rights. I'm thinking that what I want to deal with is keeping her from being president.
Right.
I want to have all of our listeners pray. God is in heaven and he's running the show. We need to get down on our knees and pray to God that this monster doesn't take over our country, because when she does, I don't see any way out of it.
You know, that I've had a never Trump person tell me, you're making a bigger Mephistopheles kind of caricature of Hillary that's not necessarily true. The never Trump people say, she's not really as bad as you're making her out to be, and Mr. Trump is as bad as she is.
She's a criminal. She has taken the emails, put them on a private server open to any government available. She has there's $6 billion missing from her stay at the State Department. She's accumulated $150 million for herself and another $150 million for her husband. She's lied. She's sent goons to the Trump rallies. And like Trump says, you can see on the video, cops walking around with blood gushing out of gashes in their head.
Yeah, you're talking about the Project Veritas videos. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a break, because you know what? I've got on our list of topics today. One of them is titled Crooked Hillary, and the other one is titled Project Veritas. We've got plenty of time to talk about this. When we return, don't go anywhere.
You got a dent in your door, a scratch in your fender, or a scratch in your door and a dent in your fender. If you need auto detailing, if you need fire shooting decals on the side of your car, if you need a rally stripe right down the middle of your hardtop, I don't care what it is. The Patriots at AllStar Collision are the place you want to go. They're the only place to go. 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Web address allstarci.com to see all that they do and what they're all about. Phone number 951-279-9161. AllStar Collision, the kings of wreck and roll.
The spirit of Paul Revere is alive and well and broadcasting on KMET AM 1490. Constitutionalist Douglas V. Gibbs hosts a roundtable of local citizens through local, state, and national issues every Saturday at 8 a.m. Thomas Jefferson said, "We in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate." So, participate. Listen to Conservative Voice Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. and join Paul Revere's modern ride for liberty.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President, Wholesale Capital Corporation, your direct mortgage lender. Real estate prices are still low, which means now's the time to buy your next home before they go up. Whether it's a home to live in, a vacation house, or an investment property, we can meet your mortgage financing needs to help you realize the next phase of your American dream. At Wholesale Capital Corporation, we make sure you get a loan that you can afford with terms that work for you. Wholesale Capital welcomes FHA buyers, conventional buyers, jumbo loan buyers, and we proudly help the U.S. military veterans take advantage of the zero down payment VA loan program. Nobody treats veterans better than Wholesale Capital Corporation. Seniors, if you're interested in creating an additional stream of income or just making your mortgage payment go away with a reverse mortgage, Wholesale Capital would love to help you. To speak with a loan officer who has your best interests in mind, call Wholesale Capital at 855-640-2020. That's area code 855-640-2020. Wholesale Capital Corporation, where we can close.
What's your constitutional IQ? Your quest to learn the Constitution can be fun for the whole family. Learn about the Constitution as you play the Constitution Quest board game. Learn more at constitutionquest.com.
And welcome back, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, right here on KMET 1490 AM. And you can listen online at KMET1490am.com. Get the app. Get the phone app. You know, sometimes I'm driving around and I lose 1490 because some silly hill gets in the way. No problem. Go to my phone, hit the app, starts playing whatever show is playing at the time. If you love the shows on 1490, get the app for your phone. On your phone, either go to the App Store to look up the KMET or just go to KMET1490am.com and scroll down to where it says to get your app. Hit that, get your app on your phone. Okay, now, with that all said, to my right, always to my right, I have Mr. Alex Ferguson, and he has some research he's been doing. Now, let me say something real quick about his research, because the book, what's the name of the book again?
The book is called The War on Cops.
The War on Cops.
By Heather McDonald.
Last Saturday, we had Larry Elder on the program. And Alex is so good at what he does on this radio program. He knew he wasn't going to get a chance to talk about his War on Cops book last week, so he asked the question of Larry Elder, drawing in the book, War on Cops. It was masterful. You are masterful at what you do, sir. And now, let's tell us a little bit about what you've been studying lately from the book, The War on Cops.
Well, let me say that the conservative believes what he sees, whereas the liberal, the Marxist, sees what he believes.
Okay.
And that's what leads to so much misdirection. The whole thing with Charlie Gibson and Barack Obama talking about capital gains tax and how if you raise the capital gains tax, you reduce the amount of revenue coming to the government. And Obama says, why do you do that? And he says, fairness. In other words, the ideology is much more important than the reality. And that's where, like I say, the misdirection comes from. Gun control. What happens with gun control? You disarm the honest citizens and the victims and give the gangsters carte blanche to rob and pillage at their heart's content because there's nobody standing back on them. The war on poverty, $22 trillion we've spent with no improvement. We've got incidents in this book where they flooded school districts or neighborhoods with hundreds of millions of dollars. It did absolutely no good. Barack Obama, he and Ayers, Bill Ayers, they got a hold of the Annenberg Foundation and spent $100 million in Chicago on the school districts. And since they're Marxists, there was absolutely no improvement. But they say the definition of insanity is when you see that your methods are not working, you redouble your efforts. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Right.
And what happens is then you get distortion. So I'm talking about when you keep doing these things, you not only don't make things better, but you distort the situation beyond any kind of possibility.
Well, and the blame starts going to the opposition.
Oh, absolutely. It can't be the ideology.
It can't possibly be your fault. It's not working because of the other guys.
Absolutely. So in New York, Hillary says, well, stop and frisk was unconstitutional and it didn't work. Well, after stop and frisk came in New York, the first year, the violent crime dropped 12%. The second year, 16%. And then most of the other big cities adopted the same policy, and violence went down 50%. Now that's human lives, people. That's people not getting shot, not having their throat cut.
Yeah, but Alex, they're profiling.
These are terms that they create, they're push-button terms that don't have any meaning. They profile all the time. They profile the cops and say, you got the New York Times, the LA Times, saying that the black man is being persecuted by the cops, and the cops have no respect for their humanity and all this kind of stuff. That's profiling, and it's all a lie. What happened with Stop and Frisk, and I don't have the book right with me right now, but there's a judge, and next week I'll give you her name. She went with the liberal definitions and measurements, along with some lawyers who jump in and make huge amounts of money in these lawsuits. And what they're saying is that if 13% of the population of a city is black, then the arrests for murder or robbery or whatever also should be 13%. That's their ideology. That's the way they look at it. But in fact, because of the welfare state and the fact that the fathers are not in the home to raise the children to be decent, law-abiding citizens, the kids grow up wild. And as a consequence, I can read the statistics that for instance, black males commit 10 times the rate of murder as white and Hispanic males combined. Asian males, their crime rate is so low that it's statistically negligible. It doesn't come up on the chart. It's a question of culture. People are worried that everything you say against a black person, like Obama, if I criticize Obama, I'm a racist. Racist. Well, no. Obama was raised in a culture of Marxism. That's his problem. His problem is not his race. We can't even begin to go along with that. But that's the position they're putting us in. If it isn't culture, what is it? Well, rather than answer that question, the leftists simply say it's racism to prosecute blacks more than you prosecute whites. Well, as a matter of fact, the rate of prosecution, they're lying again, see? And by the way, the Supreme Court took the case about stop and frisk in New York away from this judge because she was mishandling it so bad. It was not declared unconstitutional like Clinton says, but Clinton's a liar, and you can expect her to be lying. It was very, very effective. It saved thousands and thousands of black lives, and that's the thing people don't realize. The police concentrate their law enforcement efforts in the ghetto because that's where the crime is. That's where the decent people are being preyed upon by gangsters and goons and thugs, and that's where they need protection. So the police go in and roust these killers, these robbers, these super predators, which was what Bill Clinton called them, and they're criticized for prejudice. It's not prejudice. They're trying to help the decent black community so they can live their lives, educate their children, and make their way in the world. It's the craziest thing that ever happened. Let me see. 85% of all vehicle stops between 2012 and 2014 were of blacks. Whites made up 29% of the population, but only 15% of the traffic stops. Okay, they did a study in New Jersey and what was the other city? They did a study in two cities, and they discovered with neutral observers in the police cars, and they discovered that the blacks were speeding twice as often as other people in their automobiles.
Which brings you back to the cultural problem.
Which brings you back to plus because they have a low income, They don't get educated in these liberal-run cities because
they
have a
get
low
educated.
income.
They just don't get educated properly.
Their cars are not up to snuff in terms of brakes and turn signals and all that kind of stuff. So they get stopped for that. It doesn't make any sense. For instance, in Missouri, 12% of the population is black, 60.5% of murder arrests, 58% of all robbery arrests, a disparity found all the way across the country.
Yeah, let me stop you because we're going to run out of time on your segment. But what you're saying here, though, is the accusation is that cops zero in on blacks. The reality is that blacks are doing things that are causing them to get pulled over more. And one way I like to explain it is most people in prison don't like broccoli. Therefore, the government must be discriminated against people who don't like broccoli. No, most people are in prison because they're in prison. It's just a side note that they don't like broccoli.
Well, what you end up with is that back in 1994, the Supreme Court gave the Justice Department the power to take over police departments that are malfunctioning. Now, the Baltimore Police, what was it? No, the Ferguson Police Department, they had 2 police supervisors and a clerk sent a half a dozen racist jokes over the email system. That was sufficient for them to take over the entire police department. And what they do is they demand data on every breath that the cop takes. So you end up with police departments all over the country right now. There's dozens of them that are under scrutiny by the Justice Department.
Well, so they demand federalization of the police, and they say it's for good reason. But in the long run, we know that's not the reason. It is to centralize everything. And
to make the police less effective because they're on the gangsters' side. They're gangsters themselves. The police departments are now spending, that are under these supervisions, are now spending more money, as far as I can tell from the figures. They're spending more money on record keeping to make sure that there's no discrimination than they spend on law enforcement. And so crime is now exploding. I'll let it go till next week then.
Okay, and as always, good information. I'll let you go a little longer than usual, but I think this is important stuff. We need to understand what's going on and how it's happening. And that's one of the reasons why, when it comes to the culture, I'm jazzed to be working with CORE, Congress of Racial Equality. They're starting in January. I'm going to start working with them to put civics and constitution classes in minority neighborhoods. So on, I'm trying to remember, was it Wednesday? Yeah, it was Wednesday. I get a phone call from someone saying, "Hey, Doug, Larry Elder has Niger Ennis on his program, and they're talking about you, about the new program for CORE." So, hey, that's pretty cool. So you know it's getting exciting when the big wigs out there are starting to talk about the work you do.
Well, I've already back 30 years ago, I started a private school, and it turned out that the Episcopalian priest and the retired county bureaucrat that started the paperwork and put everything together, well, they didn't put the school together, I put it together, but they put the paperwork together. Turns out they were a couple of crooks. They were going to drain the funds apparently, but I'm capable of starting a school. And what we did was we started with like 2 grades, and then the next year was going to be 3 grades, and the next year was going to be 4 grades. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that because our schools have been taken over by these lunatic Marxists, we need to put schools together that teach the truth.
We need to infiltrate right back, just like they did to us. Okay, first story on the list of AllStar Collision, big stories of the week, AllStar Collision, allstarci.com. Cyber attack. Did you hear about the big cyber attack yesterday? They were getting worried about today's program because, as a matter of fact, here's what happened. Basically, is what the hackers did is they didn't hack in to these websites per se. What they did is they hacked into people's devices, and they created a flood of artificial traffic through Dyn, DYN, an internet performance management company. And what it did is they flooded it so that it killed the bandwidth. Nobody can get into it because they were too busy dealing with all the artificial traffic. So basically shut the sites down. What was interesting to me, and this affected Amazon, Twitter, Spotify, Reddit, CNBC.com. The Democrats and Obama, of course, blamed Russia.
Russia is the big catch-all for Trump.
Yeah, well, that's their latest scapegoat.
Having the WikiLeaks.
Right. So Trump likely thinks it was being caused by the Clinton Foundation. Well, I wouldn't doubt it. I think it was a group of North Korean teenagers who live in their parents' basement chewing on bark that probably did it. And just, But, there was a certain horror that accompanies this. I mean, Twitter went down. If you can't tweet, why, that's horrible. You might be forced to engage in a meaningful conversation with the people around you. Oh, the horror of it all.
Well, the last 8 years, we've had ideologues misdirecting everything, and as a consequence, none of our services are working. And look at the VA; they still can't get the medical help to the veterans. Everything is upside down. The IRS, the EPA, nothing is working, and they're going to turn around and attack us because we're in collusion apparently with the Russians. It's just madness.
All right, next topic: embracing communism. Oh, you're going to enjoy this. The Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation cited survey results recently released, blaming widespread ignorance for the relatively positive views millennials have toward socialism and communism. Of the 2,300 Americans polled by YouGov, 80% of baby boomers and 91% of the elderly agree with the statement that communist was and still is a problem in the world today. Millennials, 55%. Furthermore, almost half of Americans between the ages of 16 and 20 said they would vote for a socialist, while 21% said they'd go so far as to back a communist. Capitalism, on the other hand, is viewed favorably by 64% of those over the age of 65, compared to only 42% of millennials. In fact, more than half of millennials say the economic system works against them, while 4 out of 10 call for a complete change to ensure that the highest earners pay their quote-unquote fair share. Now, there's a lack of historical perspective here. According to the foundation, the study shows that among the this big chunk of the younger generation, that a third of millennials say they believe more people were killed under George W. Bush than Joseph Stalin.
Joseph Stalin killed Russians, just the Russians. He killed tens of millions of them.
Okay.
Starved them to death.
Now, they were asked if they were familiar or unfamiliar with the following names. These are the percentages that that said they were unfamiliar with the name. Mao Zedong, 42%. Che Guevara, 40%. Vladimir Lenin, 33%. Karl Marx, 32%. Harry Truman, 25%. Putin and Stalin, both 18%. Ronald Reagan, 11%. Bernie Sanders, 9%. John F. Kennedy, 8%. George W. Bush, 5%. Hillary Clinton, 5%. Donald Trump, 4%.
When I was a teacher, I was called into the principal's office both at the beginning of my career and the end of my career and told to stop propagandizing against the communists. Stop teaching America's side of the Vietnam War. I was in the school system for 30 years, and I don't remember one person teaching one thing about the evils of communism. They murdered 100 million people in 70 years, 100 million in time of so-called peace. And the schools don't mention it.
All right, Marion Smith, executive director of the organization I've been talking about here, here's what he said. One of the concerns the foundation has had since its establishment is that an emerging generation of Americans have little understanding of the collectivist system and its dark history. Unfortunately, this report, which we intend to release on an annual basis, confirms this worrisome impression. Now, that all said, they're perfectly fine with Mr. Obama, the Obama administration unilaterally, without any consultation with Congress or concern for national security, changing U.S. policy regarding the restrictions on trade with communist Cuba. Exchanges of products will no longer be restricted or face fines, including cigars, rum, pharmaceuticals, and, you'll love this one, scientific work.
When the first Obama election took place, I noted that every time they went to an Obama campaign headquarters, there was a picture of Che Guevara on the wall. I wonder if that could be any kind of a clue.
Well, I tell you what, the Obama administration's decision to work with communist Cuba is no surprise. Communists always like working with communists. And that's why the Obama administration does not understand the damage they are causing. They see nothing wrong with communism. And Castro, hey, that's his hero. All right, when we return, final debate, Crooked Hillary and Project Veritas. All of that on the Barbie when we return after this break.
The true patriots of AllStar Collision have been proudly serving the Inland Empire for over 20 years. Built on honesty, integrity, quality, and old-fashioned customer service, we offer lifetime warranties for our work, and every vehicle serviced by AllStar Collision is washed, detailed, the headlights polished, fluids are checked and topped off, safety checked, and returned in showroom condition. We offer free estimates, are approved by major insurance companies, and accept all claims for all cars and trucks. We use computerized frame straightening to factory specifications, offer fiberglass body repair and paint, free local pickup and delivery, and after-hours towing. Mention this radio program at drop-off and receive $100 off or a free rental car for up to 5 days during your repair. Visit us at allstarci.com or at 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Call us at 951-279-9161. We are the kings of wreck and roll.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President, Wholesale Capital Corporation, your direct mortgage lender. Real estate prices are still low, which means now's the time to buy your next home before they go up. Whether it's a home to live in, a vacation house, or an investment property, we can meet your mortgage financing needs to help you realize the next phase of your American dream. At Wholesale Capital Corporation, we make sure you get a loan that you can afford with terms that work for you. Wholesale Capital welcomes FHA buyers, conventional buyers, jumbo loan buyers, and we proudly help the U.S. military veterans take advantage of the zero down payment VA loan program. Nobody treats veterans better than Wholesale Capital Corporation. Seniors, if you're interested in creating an additional stream of income or just making your mortgage payment go away with a reverse mortgage, Wholesale Capital would love to help you. To speak with a loan officer who has your best interests in mind, call Wholesale Capital at 855-640-2020. That's area code 855-640-2020. Wholesale Capital Corporation, where we can close.
Welcome back, Constitution Radio, right here on KMET 1490 AM. I am Douglas V. Gibbs. Learn more about me at douglasvgibbs.com, politicalpistachio.com. My buddy here, Alex, conservativecannonade.org. Now, we just watched the final debate. What we've been seeing is Hillary and Trump. I mean, it's ice, man. The icy dinner, the Cardinal Al Smith dinner, absolutely icy, unbelievable. And of course, we're told by today's pundits the partisanship. It's never been this bad. Really? You want to hear something? I've got Sean has queued up what these are. Actual words by John Adams and Thomas Jefferson about the other guy during the 1800 election. And what we did is we've taken those actual words and we put them into radio ad spots. So you want to talk about vitriol? Listen to this. Hit it, Sean.
John Adams is a blind, bald, crippled, toothless man who wants to start a war with France. While he's not busy importing mistresses from Europe, he's trying to marry one of his sons to a daughter of King George. Haven't we had enough monarchy in America?
I'm Thomas Jefferson, and I approve this message because John Adams is a hideous, hermaphroditical character with neither the force and firmness of a man nor the gentleness and sensibility of a woman.
If Thomas Jefferson wins, murder, robbery, rape, adultery, and incest will be openly taught and practiced. The air will be rent with the cries of the distressed. The soil will be soaked with blood and the nation black with crimes. Are you prepared to see your dwellings in flames, female chastity violated, children writhing on a pike?
I'm John Adams, and I approve this message because Jefferson is the son of a half-breed Indian squaw raised on hoe cakes, and Hamilton is a Creole bastard brat of a Scotch peddler.
There you go. So has the vitriol gotten any better or worse? What do you think, Alex?
Well, wasn't it Adams and Jefferson that died on the same day?
Yeah.
4th of July?
You know, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny because they began as friends during the Revolutionary period. And politically, Adams sided with Alexander Hamilton and the Federalist Party, which was the big government party. Jefferson was laissez-faire, and the Democratic Republicans, the Republicans, the Jeffersonians, the limited government. And so it became a battle between the two. And they got to the point where they really started to hate each other. Then after Madison's presidency, their friendship began to rekindle. And you're right. Adams, on his deathbed, says, as he's dying, he says, well, at least we still have Jefferson, not knowing that Jefferson had died just 2 hours before, on July 4th, 50-year anniversary of the Declaration of Independence.
As I have said many times, it is my absolute belief that God speaks to us through coincidences. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's a sign from heaven.
All right, so final debate, Clinton and Trump. Here's the thing I noticed about that final debate. It was more issue-oriented, but it wasn't because of Clinton and Trump that it was more issue-oriented. It was because of Chris Wallace.
Absolutely.
I thought he did a fantastic job. He almost lost control a couple times. I cracked up. I was trying to keep him on topic, and they turned immigration into a discussion about Putin. But overall, I thought that Trump did better than in the other two debates, but he could have done much better. It was too much of these, well, it's going to be great, and what I'm going to do, it's going to be great and fantastic, and I do what it's great. Well, and I saw the debate in a theater, big screen theater with a bunch of people from both sides in there, and I kept hearing, yeah, Trump, but how? How are you going to do it? And one of the things that really caught me is taxes. He's talking about cutting taxes. She's talking about raising taxes on the rich right after she says she wants to create jobs. And he should have said something like, well, how do you create jobs when you're penalizing the people who do the job creation with high taxes?
Well, there's never been a situation in which the left was more open to talking points,
right?
To attack, and yet this Donald doesn't get it. He's the best we've got. We absolutely have to have him instead of Hillary. It's the end of the world if we don't. But the fact of the matter is that he's a buffoon. I believe that he's a quick study. I think with the good people he's got around him, he'll run a good presidency. But as a candidate, he sucks.
Here's one of my favorite memes that floats around Facebook. Democrats, a bunch of rich people convincing poor people to vote for rich people by telling the poor people the other rich people are the reason they are poor.
I like it. Who said that?
Anonymous. But it nails it, don't it?
Yeah, that's right on the money. That's what I'm saying. That kind of clever narrative is just what we desperately need, but we're not getting it.
Well, and the thing is, he calls her crooked Hillary, and I mean that's an understatement. We've got, and not only with Assange and the releases about Hillary and all this other stuff, and the released FBI documents showing that that actually a State Department official proposed a quid pro quo to convince the FBI to strip the server, and repeatedly tried to influence the Bureau's decision when his offer was denied. I mean, that kind of stuff.
To declassify a document after it's already been subpoenaed.
And then to show how vicious the Democrats are, we had and we talked about this last week, North Carolina, the Republican headquarters firebombed. Nazi Republicans leave town or else. Who's the Nazis? Who's closer to Nazi? Did you know that Hitler, not that I'm calling her a Hitler.
I would.
But that Hitler's big things on his platform when he was running was gun control, and actually number one was health care.
He was a socialist.
Yeah, he was a socialist.
They don't change over the years. They just change their name.
There's, and of course, Trump's being attacked for saying that it's fraud, there's fraud in the system of the election, all that, and there's evidence that it is. And the big one was they said, well, we accept the, election as it is. And he says, well, we'll see. What he's saying is, if I don't think there was monkey business, sure, I will. But if there was a fraud, not so much. But that's not how they're spinning it.
The fraud has already taken place. In the first years of the Obama administration, they used the IRS to shut down the Tea Party movement. That movement was on its way to becoming a very powerful force in American society, and it was strangled in its crib. That's affecting the situation today. The people know that if they get into a Tea Party, the government might come after them.
Jesse Waters reported from the back room during that debate that anytime Trump said something, all the journalists were moaning, and every time Hillary something, they were cheering. Now, then it's no surprise that the journalists have been showering the Clinton camp with cash, $396,000 to the presidential campaigns or campaign of Clinton from journalists alone. 96% of the money going from journalists into campaigns has been going to Hillary. Also, the corporate media, corporate journalists have been receiving checks from multi-billion-dollar conglomerates, and which have become just as out of touch as the politicians, receiving hundreds of millions from billionaire plutocrats. This is the corporate media doing this. We actually had a Politico reporter offer Podesta a chance to censor a story. Hey, we're going to write about Hillary. You want to take a look first? That kind of stuff.
This is the stuff that Richard Nixon dreamed of.
Right.
He was persecuted and driven from office because he considered doing these things. But the Obama administration has done them in spades, and he's not being held accountable. Wasn't there a guy named Cox who refused to follow Nixon's instructions? He was considered a hero, a profile in courage. But we don't have any Coxes anymore. All we've got is, I don't want to discuss it.
Well, also, here's the last one about Hillary. The Communist Party USA has endorsed Hillary Clinton. They are trying to work with the Muslim Brotherhood and Black Lives Matter to create a landslide victory over Donald Trump. Now, when Communist Party USA, of course, remember, the millennials don't know what communism is, so this means nothing to them, is supporting a candidate, Democrat, and she's calling the other guy the dictator or whatever, Nazi, communist. Amazing. All right, real quick. Final story, Project Veritas, videos showing actual Democrat Party organizers, doing their thing in creating violence, staging the violence at Trump rallies, infiltrating. And one guy said, well, we've been doing it for 50 years. Of course, he wound up losing his job. What was his name? Toval or something like that?
There was a guy named Robert Creamer who's in the center of all this. I believe he's the one that has been in the White House 300 and some times. He's been in the office, the Oval Office with Obama 42 times, and he's the one that's sending the goons to the Trump campaign rallies to physically attack. Our country has lost its soul. How can the FBI not move on that? How can they not move on the all this stuff with the emails and the WikiLeaks and everything? It's proof of felonies.
Yeah, most of these videos, these undercover journalist videos from James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, centered around Scott Fovall. Scott Fovall, National Field Director, Americans United for Change, who does a lot of this, bussing people in and explaining how they do it not to get caught and how they instigate violence. Wouldn't doubt that he's also behind the Black Lives Matter. Well, he wound up getting fired over this. So, and now here's the thing.
He's actually not going to be fired. I'll guarantee he's going to be given another soft job.
Oh, somewhere, yeah. Well, because criminal activity is usually a step up for Democrats. But here's the thing. People have been saying to me, well, Doug, yeah, but mainstream media, number one, hasn't been picking this up that much. And even when they do, mainstream media, they're going to twist it. And so, wait a second. Getting back to those millennials. I guarantee you they see this because they don't watch the mainstream media. What do they watch? The internet. Where's this all over? The internet. This is getting the millennials. I think we might be making a dent with these Project Veritas videos. Your quick thoughts in less than a minute.
My quick thought is that when you've got a man who doubled the national debt in 8 years, who has violated the Constitution repeatedly, whose deputy was convicted of contempt of Congress, when billions of dollars are missing, when we've deliberately lost several wars, when all of these horrors are going on, America is blinded. America has been...
And we are done. Plug yourself, my friend.
Go to conservativecanonaid.org. I'm telling you, that last poem is marvelous.
And I am Douglas V. Gibbs, douglasvgibbs.com. United we stand, combined we kick butt. God bless America. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
The preceding was a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
You're listening to 1490 AM KMET. Banning,
From ABC
Beaumont,
News.
Redland,